my marriage find its purpose? Is it found in the us statements? Is that, it's all about us. We put us first. Or is it about the you statements? I put you first. You're my queen. You're my king. I need to serve my spouse. Put your needs above my own. Or maybe, if some are honest, your marriage's purpose is about the me statements. My marriage makes me happy, makes me feel complete. My marriage fulfills my needs and my desires. A few months ago, my wife and I, quick story, we wanted to do a little getaway. We didn't have time to take like a vacation, so we planned this little trip, a lot of money, had a much better time if we'd simply done a little more research, if we had planned a little bit better. Most importantly, if we had sought some advice, some expert advice on the area. Our marriages can look a lot like that 10, 20, 50 years down the road if we're not careful. We're all believers here, I hope. And I know that some of you here are dating or engaged. But if we're not careful, we can end up a couple decades down the road saying, wow, it was a great adventure. We had a good marriage. But if we just planned a little bit better, if we had sought out that expert advice, if we had the advice of the one who invented marriage, God. If we had placed him at the center and made God the most important part of our marriage, how much better of a time we could have had. Now, pretty much all of the us, the you, the me statements that I read earlier, they can all be good things. They can be good biblical things in the proper order. And God wants to fulfill the desires he's placed into us in the right way. To want to feel complete, to want to feel loved, appreciated, to want to serve our spouse. It's a good thing, and to fulfill our needs, our desires. Those are all good things in the proper order. And the us statements, we need security. Our home team. I used to say that a lot to Stephanie. I'm going to start saying it again, but look to your spouse right now and say, home team. Come on, try it again. One more time, ready? On the count of three, look to your spouse and say, home team. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Home team. It's all great things, but now here's the but, and it's a big one, but where do we find our purpose in our marriage? Our purpose cannot be wanting to please our wife and vice versa. It cannot be wanting to fulfill my needs. Point number 1, if you guys are taking notes, pleasing God is greater than my marriage. Pleasing God, greater than symbol, my marriage. Galatians 4, verses 21 to 31 talks about Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar. It's an amazing story. And you can pull so many life lessons through that. You should read it later. But it goes into chapter 5, verse 1 says this, for freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery. This goes back to Genesis 16. Abraham, his wife, Sarah. Many of us know the story. Sarah couldn't get pregnant. They had been promised a baby. God promised them a baby, and she was getting old. She was getting way past the childbearing age. And Sarah has this great idea. Honey, Abraham, husband, I want you to sleep with my servant, Hagar. Abraham's like, okay, sounds good. And Hagar gets pregnant and gives birth to Ishmael. Now what Galatians 5:1 here is referencing is that we've been set free. Free from the chains of the law to live a godly, forgiven life through Christ's sacrifice. But we choose to go back to trying to do things our way. And that's what Ishmael and Hagar are an example of. Trying to do it our way in our own timing. Trying to force the situation. That puts that yoke of slavery around your neck. Think about the mental pain and the suffering that Sarah had to endure every morning at breakfast, every day at dinner. Hagar and Ishmael sitting there at the table. Look at the way my husband is looking at Ishmael and his baby mama, sitting right there at the table every single day. That yoke of slavery that's been placed upon their shoulders. When Sarah and her husband tried to be about me or you or us, I want to please you, my husband. Abraham would say, I want my son. I want him now. God promised this to me. This child, honey, this child will be good for us. It'll be a good thing for us. Taking matters in their own hands and put a burden, a yoke on their marriage that no one should have to endure. You know, Sarah, she later gets pregnant and gives birth to Isaac, as we know. And Isaac is the son of promise, doing it the right way, doing it God's way, right? We may think that putting our spouse first, it's best. It feels good. It makes us feel good. You know, I'm humbling myself. I'm putting my spouse's needs above my own. But these things should come as a result of putting God first. I want to put my spouse first because I love God so much. He's the center of our marriage, and that comes as a result. Our purpose has to come from wanting to please God, to doing things God's way in His perfect timing, to making Jesus the center of every conflict, of every happy moment, every tear, every smile. Pleasing God has to be central. And I can tell you from my own experience that when I put God first and foremost in everything in my marriage has been great. When we argue, if my focus is on me or my focus is on wanting to please my wife, the outcome will never be as good as when I aim to please God. This made me think of a great